Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Troy Lambert of Plot Geek Academy, and today we're going to talk about using AI to create book blurbs. Now I want to start this discussion by saying we know AI is a controversial topic, and there are some people that think that we shouldn't use AI for anything. There are other people like me who think that we should use AI as a tool to speed up our publishing process and some of the business side of writing so that we can get to the things that we really love doing, which is, of course, writing more books. So this is about creating efficiency. It's not about substituting AI for somebody else's job. And as you'll see, no matter how good of a tool that you use to generate a book blurb using AI, you're going to have some human intervention, whether that's you or a book blurb expert or whatever that looks like. You're still going to need human intervention for that to work. But with that, let's dive right into it. Well, first of all, we need to define what a book blurb is. Now, many of you may come to this video fully understanding that, but let's give just a really quick overview of what a book blurb is and what it isn't. A book blurb is not just a summary or a description of your book. Okay, that's something you might hand to an agent, or that's your elevator pitch or something like that, and I would argue that there are elements of that need to be similar to a book blurb. But a book blurb is a sales tool. It's essentially the first thing that readers are going to see when they land on a page, a landing page, wherever that is, about your book. Now, that can be on a book retailer, that can be on your website if you're selling direct, whatever the case may be. But this is a sales tool. It's designed to compel the reader to pick up and purchase your book. So as such, there's certain elements that have to be in it. Okay, it's designed to grab that attention. But it also must include keywords. So there are keywords that are going to be essential to your book appearing in the right places on Amazon, the right places on Google, all those different types of things. And we talk about that here at Plot Geek Academy all the time. We talk about SEO, why it matters to your website, why it matters to your books on Amazon and everywhere. Okay, keywords matter. Keywords matter a lot. Okay, so those keywords, at least in part, need to be in your blurb. Now, you don't want to stuff your blurb with keywords because it's for two reasons. You're creating it for the person who's searching for your book, so the reader, the person who finds it, still needs to be compelling and get them to want to buy your book. But often that includes including keywords like tropes, like the genre of your book, things like that. And we're going to see that when AI creates a blurb, it's going to do some of this for us, but some of it is the things that we as humans are going to have to add to that. Now, typically a book blurb is somewhere between 100 and 300 words for a fiction book blurb. Nonfiction book blurbs tend to be a little bit different. We're not going to talk about those here because primarily we're not going to create a nonfiction book blurb, as you're going to see. Okay, so we're going to use the AI tool to create a fiction book blurb. So that's what we're going to talk about. Those are usually 100 to 300 words, depending upon the story, depending upon the length of your story, and how much information you want to or can include without creating spoilers for the book at the same time. Okay, so let's talk about keywords for a second before we move on. First of all, let's look at keywords and what some of them are for different genres and how they impact your sales. So for instance, if you were going to include some of those tropes as keywords, then in a romance you might include heartwarming, second chance romance, enemies to lovers. Basically, you're telling the reader what your book's about. You're telling them about the tropes that are in your book, and that identifies for the reader whether they want to read that book or not. Okay, so it can make really good buying decisions. Mystery thriller, you can do gripping, page turner, things like that. If you're talking about a fantasy or a dystopian book, which we're going to look at in a little bit, you can talk about the elements of that. Dragons, magic, emotional stories, whatever it is that you've got in your book that would get readers to read that book. Now, let's talk about identifying keywords. Now, first of all, the tool that we're going to look at today is going to identify some keywords for you. Okay, but there are more steps that you can take, and that includes manual keyword research. That includes tools like Publisher Rocket, which is designed to find keywords specifically geared towards books. Now, we're not going to talk in detail about those tools today. We've got other videos and courses on Plot Geek Academy that talk about those particular type of tools. So, but we're going to look at even how you can discover some of those tools by having AI create your book blurb for you. Now, this is going to require some thought and some effort on your part, but we're going to look at that as well. So with that, let's take a look at the type of tool that we're going to use today. So we're going to use an AI book blurb generator that's created by PublishDrive. Now, you may think of PublishDrive more as a distribution company than as a company that has all kinds, as a tool that has all kinds of other publishing tools that you can use. But the truth is, this is a really versatile platform, and there's a lot of things that set it apart, and we'll talk about some of those things in other videos when we talk about the subscription model versus the royalty model. This is a really important difference that sets the distribution at PublishDrive apart. However, PublishDrive has all kinds of other tools, including tools for analysis of your sales, for promotions, all kinds of things like that. Okay, so we're not going to talk about those today, but we are going to look at this first page on distribution that you get to as soon as you come to the PublishDrive website. Once you created an account and logged in and you look at distribution, the distribution page, this is the first page that you're going to see. So step one is upload your first book. I'm using a brand new account, haven't uploaded a book yet. We're going to do that. Well, we're not going to do that as part of this video, but we're going to do that as part of a series of videos, okay? So, but it says, welcome Troy, now let's make you a bestseller. It said make sure you have these three things on hand before you upload your masterpiece: your book cover file, your book content file, and your book metadata. Well, that book metadata includes keywords, but it also includes your book blurb. Okay, so if we want to create some of that information, we can create some really granular and actually pretty good metadata using PublishDrive. Now, the reason we're going to do that, and this is what sets this apart from some other book blurb creation tools, is that this tool is going to use your actual manuscript and pull information from your manuscript in order to create the book blurb. Okay, so let's look at what tool we're going to use for that. Now, obviously, we're going to come up in the corner here, and we're going to come to the Apps tab, and we're going to go to the Publishing Assistant. Okay, and it says Generate Marketing-Friendly Data. Well, that marketing-friendly data includes your book blurb. Okay, so when we switch to this screen, we're going to have a welcome sequence that welcomes us aboard. We're going to be introduced to Alexandria, which is our virtual assistant here. Basically, we're going to give the AI our manuscript. We're going to upload it. Now, for those of you that are nervous about that type of thing, this is one of those that uses an API, and so that your data is not shared to train the AI by uploading your manuscript here. Okay, it doesn't go there. The AI doesn't see it. The only place it's used is here to create your blurb. And as we can see here, there's some other options to create a cover image and some keywords and stuff like that. We're not going to play around with those today, and we're not going to cover AI cover images today. I know that's a controversial topic, but we're going to talk about ways that you could potentially use a created cover image like this to give your cover artist some ideas that might do some really cool things for your book. But we're going to talk about that in another book, so that you can use this in a non-controversial way that's not taking work away from cover designers, but that is giving your cover designer a better idea than the idea you have in your head or some kind of a sketch you may offer them. Anyway, so we're going to look at Alexandria here. Basically, she's going to take our manuscript and help us create some marketing data, all kinds of stuff. She's going to read the book and go through it, and then suggest some things that can help us reach our publishing goals. Okay. Now, there's once the AI has gone through this process of creating metadata, optimized metadata, a list is going to appear on the left-hand side of the screen. And that's going to give you some opportunities to go through and make decisions. Basically, you're going to decide, this is the thing the AI created that I like, this is a thing that I don't like, and I can decide if I'm going to use those things or not. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then this happens with credits. Now over here, you're going to see that there's a little 60 number right here. Okay, this is the credits that you start with. I'm starting with a brand new account as if I'd never played around with this tool before. That 60 credits is what you get initially when you come on and create a new account. Now this is really what it's enough is to do something with one book. Like you can use this metadata. We're going to use this to create some metadata, and you're going to see how many credits it uses. But 60 credits is about enough to cover what you're going to do with one book. Okay, if you're going to create more books, you're going to need more credits and things like that. Now, this comes; these credits are purchasable. You can click on these credits and buy different credits. Okay, now depending on how many you buy, depends on how much they cost per AI credit. Now, all AI credits they're just tokens that AI is using to basically what it costs to use AI. Now, in this particular case, if I was going to use PublishDrive all the time to publish several books, which is in my plan, right, I would be over here at this 500 credit limit because I'm going to use this Publisher Assistant in a couple of different ways when I'm doing things with my work. Okay, so I'm going to use it all the time for various different things, even when I'm creating shorts. And you're going to see that we're going to use a short for this particular example, but not a super short. But I have some super short audio coming out that I'm still going to need to create descriptions for. I'm still going to need to do some of that stuff for. And so it's going to be important for me to have a bunch of credits. So if it were me, I'd buy a bunch of credits. But for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to test the tool with the credits that it comes with. Okay, now, and we're going to select craft and optimize metadata. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to upload our manuscript. Okay, and so I'm going to skip through that process really quick, but you can see basically you're just going to click here, you're going to select a file from your computer, and you're going to upload your manuscript, or you can browse here, whatever you want to do, or you can drag and drop if you know where your manuscript is and it's handy in your file thing. Now I will say this is on a Mac. This may look slightly different on Windows, but the principle should be essentially the same. So let's hang on just a minute while I upload my manuscript. Okay, so I've gotten a message. I've successfully uploaded my manuscript. Okay, and so you can see I've uploaded a docx of the clan. Now the clan, I'm going to explain this to you really quick. It's not super important, but just so that you understand what we're dealing with here. This is about a 10,000 word manuscript. It's actually a script for an audio short that's also going to come out as a little mini ebook. That type of thing is going to be available on my website and other retailers as well. And the audio is going to be available everywhere, but it really is designed to fit into a new short audio format that Spotify is experimenting with. That's part of a bigger project that I'm working on next year. We'll talk about that in a different video as well. But in this particular case, so I've uploaded this manuscript. It's a 10,000 word manuscript, so it's relatively short, but it's still going to give the AI enough information to create a good description, create some keywords, and things like that. Okay. So once I've uploaded the manuscript, I'm going to come up to the next button here. Okay. I'm going to hit next. Now it's going to ask me the title of my book. Now I'm going to put the clan in here. It's going to be an ebook. This is not going to be a series, so I'm not going to do that. But it does ask me a question, where do you want to publish? Now it says Amazon, PublishDrive, or other. Now in this particular case, even if I was going to put this somewhere other than PublishDrive, which I'm not, I would select PublishDrive simply because this is going to give me some information that I need for distributing wide, not just to Amazon. And by wide, I mean to other retailers, Google Play, Apple Books, all those different kinds of places. Now, in my case, that's what I do is I publish things wide. Some people publish things exclusively to Amazon for a limited amount of time or something like that. I generally, that's not my business model. At the moment, I've moved away from that business model. So I'm going to publish wide. So I'm going to say PublishDrive because I know that PublishDrive, through their distribution, gets my book to all kinds of other retailers. And this is the information I'm going to need to upload that book to those retailers beyond just the book blurb. Like I say, we're going to focus on the book blurb today, but this is going to give us all kinds of other information as well. Okay, so I'm going to click on PublishDrive and I'm going to hit start. And this is going to tell me immediately how many credits that this is going to take to perform this action. Okay, it's going to take 43 credits. I've got 60. That's plenty. So we're going to go ahead and hit start. Now, as soon as we do that, essentially the list of tasks is going to appear on the left-hand side of the screen. Now, it's kind of grayed out right now. We'll see it more clearly once everything has been completed. Okay, but the AI is going through reading the manuscript, processing the information that it finds in the manuscript, and creating personalized metadata. Now, this might take a little while. It says it can take from a few minutes up to an hour. Please be patient. It's probably recommended that you go make yourself a cup of coffee or do something else during this process, especially if you're uploading a longer or a full manuscript. Now, with a 10,000 word manuscript, this probably won't take quite as long, but we'll go ahead and fast forward through this process till when the information is actually created and that list of tasks over on the left-hand side has actually been populated. All right, so now our lovely assistant has completed the process of creating some metadata options for us. Now you'll see all kinds of things over here, including title, subtitle, pen name, series, description, Amazon categories, BISAC categories, which are really, really important, by the way, keywords, and even price. Okay, so it's fascinating. We've come up with some really interesting information here. Okay, so we're going to find these recommended data options here. Now we can choose from the results with one click. So basically we can choose and say, okay, I want to use the title, The Clan, which was my original title. Okay. And then when you're ready, you have the option to review your selected items, and if you're satisfied, you can even publish it. So basically, once you're done gathering your results from all of this data that the AI has provided for you, it's going to give you this cool little PDF report that you can download. Okay. Now, what you can do with that is then you can take that information and you can either transfer it over to PublishDrive, which is where we're going to publish this particular work or whatever publishing platform you're using, or in the case of direct, then you can also add that information to your website, stuff like that. Okay. So you have all these options, okay, and we'll look at what that looks like here in a little bit. And we're not going to spend a lot of time looking at these other things that the AI has created for us in this particular case. We're going to focus on the description, but at the end I will show you what this report looks like, because I'll go through and select some of these other things kind of offline and not as a part of this particular process, and then I'll show you what that report looks like and kind of some things that you can do with that, and eventually we'll cover some of these other categories in different videos. Okay, so for now, that's what she has to offer us. We're going to go ahead and skip on down to the book description. Now, this little number right here is going to tell you how many of these that you can select. Now, technically, you could select more than one. You could download or copy more than one and kind of blend them into making something. Okay, but we're going to look at these books descriptions first. Okay, so our assistant even tells us your book blurb is more than just a summary. It's your sales pitch, your declaration readers will uncover within your pages. Now, the format here is actually really interesting because all of these have the exact same format, and that is headline, long text, short text, and then a call to action. Okay. Now, normally on a blurb, I would divide up that second paragraph. I can tell already. I divide up that second paragraph and add another heading, especially on Amazon. That heading would probably include some kind of keywords. Okay, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. In fact, we may do some editing of these right here in this particular in this program, because that's one of the things that you can do. Okay, so we're going to look at this first blurb. I'm just going to read the first one, and then we can read over some. Then you can read over some of the other ones if you create these for your own book, and you can decide how accurate they are, how well that the AI has understood your book, and then whether or not these are usable. But let's start with the first one. Now, first of all, let me tell you what the client is about. It's a post-apocalyptic book where basically dragons have been enslaved for years by human beings. Now the dragons are starting to break free as the human technology that enslaves them is breaking down. And so there is a leader of the dragon rebellion, there are shepherds, there are overseers, and eventually the dragons and the humans kind of have a battle, and they have to decide, are we going to fight each other to the death for this freedom type stuff, or are we going to find a way to coexist and make peace? Okay, and that's the story in kind of a really rough nutshell, but let's see how the AI did. So we're going to look at the first headline: enslaved, controlled, ready to burn it all down. In a world where dragons bow to human masters, the chains of centuries are about to break. That's actually pretty dang good. In fact, we'll look at this. Let's just look at the second one here. Technology enslaves, nature rebels. In the ashes of civilization, the dragons are rising to reclaim their freedom, and no human cage can hold them anymore. Now, the dragons aren't actually in cages, but metaphorically, this kind of makes sense. So both of these headlines are actually not too bad. Now, in this particular case, what I would probably do is just include that first part as the heading. Technology enslaves, nature rebels. Add the next one to a second line, or enslaved, controlled, ready to burn it all down, and then put that first sentence on a different, that follows that on a different line. Okay? Then, let's look at the text now. A dragon shepherd guards his clan with unwavering loyalty until he discovers the truth that shatters his world. As Rhaegon witnesses the awakening rebellion led by the fierce Baldur, his duty to the human overseers clashes with his growing sympathy for the magnificent beasts under his care. Now, this is very good. Basically, Rhaegon starts to sympathize with the dragons. He thinks that they're beautiful and magnificent creatures and very intelligent, where a large part of the human population thinks that they are not. Okay, so that's actually really good. The AI has picked up on that. Then I would probably enter or have a scene break here. In fact, let's just start editing this little blurb right here. So I'd probably move this down here almost right away. Now, so probably, let's read this through. When the dragons finally break free from their technological chains, the world erupts into chaos. Rhaegon must choose between the humanity he was born to and the freedom fighters he's grown to understand. As the war between species escalates, ancient powers rise from the ashes of civilization, threatening to burn everything to the ground. If peace isn't found between humans and dragons, most species might face extinction in the flames of vengeance. This gripping tale is a masterpiece of post-apocalyptic fantasy where dragons and humans collide. If you love epic battles, moral dilemmas, and breathtaking dragon lore, you'll be captivated by this thrilling adventure of rebellion and redemption. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down here, and when the dragons finally break free from their technological chains, the world erupts into chaos. Okay, you can see that I've got Grammarly here too, trying to tell me what to do, and I'm not always going to follow those suggestions either, but that's a whole other topic for an entirely different day. Okay, so he's become sympathetic, so we're going to leave that alone. When the dragons finally break free, this tells us what happens. Okay. Now, actually, I kind of like this rewording, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. The world erupts into chaos when the dragons finally break free from the technological chains. I like the idea of technological chains because they are technological things that hold them. It is not actual chains, so I really like that. Rhaegon must choose between the humanity he was born to and the freedom fighters he's grown to understand. As the war between species escalates, ancient powers rise from the ashes of civilization. This isn't actually what happens. Okay, as the war between species escalates, it's not ancient powers, it's the dragons themselves that are just rising from the ashes. So it's not some kind of a magic system or something like that, which this kind of implies. So I'd have to go through and edit this just slightly as the war between species escalates. But what I want you to note is that this final sentence right here includes a bunch of keywords. Okay, this is really well done by this AI. This gripping tale is a masterpiece of post-apocalyptic fantasy genre, right there, where dragons and humans collide. Dragons, we're including dragons, post-apocalyptic, that's really important. If you love epic battles, that's going to tell you something about the fantasy and the type of fantasy. Moral dilemmas, breathtaking dragon lore. You'll be captivated by this thrilling adventure of rebellion and redemption. The number of keywords in that last sentence that tell Amazon and tell readers what this book is about is actually really amazing and really well done by the AI. Now, unlock this epic tale of freedom and fire today. I kind of like that, so I'm going to leave that right now. And I'm going to glance down at some of these other blurbs, and I'm going to see if there's anything from these that I might want to pull into the first blurb, or is there's a way that I can combine these. Okay, you can see that what I've done is I've taken parts from the various different blurbs that have been created. I've moved them around. This probably still isn't exactly perfect, but it is a decent start to a blurb. Now, this is the thing with all AI blurbs, okay? AI is not perfect. It's not going to create a perfect blurb right off. But this does an excellent job, I think primarily because it's taking all the data from your book rather than just a description you created or some bullet points that you've added to maybe another tool that you might use to create an AI book blurb. So I think because this is reading your entire book, it's actually doing a much better job of grabbing all the information from your book and using that to create a better and a more robust book blurb from the start. Okay, so this is the book description. Now, just so I can show you the other thing, I'm going to run through these choices over on the side and select a bunch of things, and then I'm going to show you what the output looks like when we do something like that. So I'm going to fast forward while I do that. You'll notice that it has some title suggestions, some subtitle suggestions. Those are things that you might want to consider if you haven't chosen those things for your book already. Interesting information, but we're not going to cover all of that here. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward through as I take care of those things so we can create a fun little report here. I will stop to say that it's interesting here that they've created some pen names that could be really interesting for you to use if you haven't chosen a pen name and you're writing in a new genre or something like that. Now, this is going to be released under my name, but there's actually some pretty cool little fantasy type names that would work as pen names as a part of this data that the AI has created. Anyway, moving on. I'll also stop on these categories to say, hey, these are pretty general categories. We would do some deeper category research in this particular instance, but this actually gives you a really great place to start. And I noticed, too, that it has a teen and young adult science fiction and fantasy in here. I didn't think of this as a teen and young adult book, but it's interesting that after reading it, that the AI has lumped it into that kind of a category. That's not the way I would sell this particular book, but it could work that way for kind of little older teens, things like that. So it comes into kind of an interesting thing when it comes to marketing and things like that. Anyway, moving on to the other, so we can get to that final report. I'll also hover here briefly on price. This is interesting. This is a 10,000 word short type thing, right? And so it's interesting that they have recommendations for price. The lower end of the 70% royalty range for Amazon and other things makes it more affordable for readers while you're still maximizing your earnings. $4.49 is the mid-range royalty bracket. It appeals to readers looking for a balance between cost and perceived value. In some cases, when you price your book too low, except in this case that it's relatively short, that people will see that it's not valuable. That's kind of a clue to them that this isn't really anything that's of a big deal. So I actually might choose this as a price. It's an interesting price point. The $5.99 is probably a little bit too much for a 10,000 word book, but I'll do some additional research on price. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and select this. Now, on all of these things, you'll see that there's always a generate more button down here if you're not getting the things that you're looking for. And again, we'll go back and look at some of this other information in other videos. But for now, we're going to hit that we're ready because everything's green over here. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to get a book summary over here for ebook. Okay, now if I was doing an audiobook or something else, it would probably give me different information, which I actually am going to be doing an audiobook of this, but that's a whole different, we'll talk about that in a different thing. But we talk about what I've got is this really kind of concise report here, series The Last Shepherd. I chose that as, because I was like, if I was going to create a series out of this, that's probably one of the things I might actually title it. It's taken my blurb that I edited in here. Again, I'm going to edit this some more than likely before I post it somewhere. It's got some ideas for categories, basic categories, all that kind of stuff. The keywords I pulled out are something I'm going to use as a basis to start keyword research. Those aren't the keywords that I'm going to enter in Kindle, but that's another video. But what I can do is I can download this, and it's going to send it to my downloads folder, and then I can open it up in a PDF type of format and use this to and then use this. Well, I'll just show you. So let's go ahead and open up the PDF. So here's what the PDF looks like. It gives you some of the metadata generator, instruction and importance of metadata, why metadata matters, for sales conversion categorization. It talks about PublishDrive. PublishDrive gets your book in over 400 stores, thousands of libraries across 100 plus countries. It's actually really, we'll talk about that part of the tool in another video. Okay, but pen name, or my name, in other words, series, is going to have the description. So I have it all for reference here, and it's going to have all that information that I created in kind of this cool little report that I can just, in my case, I'm just going to save this in the marketing file for this particular book, and I'll probably use it in a number of different ways. Okay, so that's what that looks like. But again, let's talk about really quick the importance of human editing. Most of the blurbs that PublishDrive created or that any AI tool created are just not going to be perfect when they're out of the box. So you notice that through that part, I pulled out different parts of different blurbs, moved them together, put them into this format, which is, again, not 100% ready, that I still need to do a little bit of editing, okay? Human editing is super important. First of all, AI can lack nuance and may produce generic or overly wordy content, okay? It happens sometimes with book blurbs. Now, AI tends to be pretty good at marketing material and not overwriting, but sometimes it'll go a little bit off the rails. It also depends on the information that you've given it. In this case, I've given the AI my entire manuscript. A lot of times, if you're using a different tool, you're going to give the AI a summary or something like that to work off of, not your entire manuscript. Now, you can upload a file and have it summarize an entire file, but it's not quite as effective as the way this tool is set up to make it work. And that's because of the prompting that's in the background that PublishDrive has developed. Okay. Now, the other part is that there can be a mismatched tone, or you saw in some ways there were a couple little things in the blurb that were not exactly factual. Right? They weren't exactly what's in the book. And I, as the author, know that. You, as the author, are the world's foremost expert on your book because you wrote it. So you're the one that needs to check that information and make sure that that's all correct. Okay. Now, the other part is it just wasn't polished 100%, and it's still not 100% polished. You as the human are going to add that polish, and you're going to make sure that the keywords are in the right place and that all of those things are happening. Okay, you're going to adjust the phrasing, you're going to adjust the tone. You notice that I accepted that Grammarly suggestion just because it changed the tone, changed the subject of the sentence to be more active, that type of thing. Those are the things that you're going to do. Okay. Now, some tips for editing blurbs. Simplify your sentence structure. Make it quick, punchy, fast. Give the reader something that grabs their attention right away. Technology enslaves, nature rebels. The dragons are done being slaves. Right? That immediately grabs your attention. Dragons are rebelling. They're done being slaves. That's because technology had them captured. nature rebels. Now, reading that over again, I'm probably going to change that slaves word because it's too close together to have those two words too close together. Again, but then remove unnecessary jargon and filter words. Now, usually you won't get a lot of jargon, but maybe if you're doing a nonfiction, you might. So be sure that you edit those things out as well. And then test different versions to see what resonates. Even if you're using another tool, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, I highly recommend that you create more than one option. You'll notice that what we did out of this one was we took parts from each option that was developed. Okay, so we didn't take any one thing from any one tool. Okay, so what are some other tools that you can use? Well, obviously the first one is PublishDrive. This is the one that we've used, one where you upload your entire manuscript and then it looks for information in that manuscript to create a blurb. Super great, fantastic tool. Highly recommend. Okay, this has given us a pretty good blurb to work with and some other information to work with as well for relatively low cost, even if that's under $5 for the credits that we used. That's really simple. Anyway, so we've gotten some cool stuff there. Okay, so highly recommend PublishDrive. The other one is quite simply ChatGPT. ChatGPT is one that a lot of people have access to, and it's the primary reason that I talk about that one. Now, you do need to be careful if you're uploading your book directly, your entire manuscript directly to one of these tools. It is highly likely, regardless of what they tell you, that they can use that information to train their AI. If you're concerned about those things, uploading your entire manuscript to those tools may not be the best idea. Now, uploading a summary or even taking one of these blurbs that you created in PublishDrive and seeing what happens when that AI modifies it, tell it to create 3 different versions of a blurb, to edit the blurb and see what it comes up with. You never know, it might come up with something pretty cool. I've had success with that before. Okay, but ChatGPT, that's the generic AI. A lot of people have access to it. It's reasonably good. You're going to have to do some tweaking, and you're going to have to understand how to prompt it to create the right kind of book blurb for what you're trying to do. Jasper AI is another one. This one is better known for marketing materials. Okay, so if you needed Facebook ads, things like that, and you have one of these descriptions already, then Jasper can actually be a great tool. Now, it can create book blurbs. In my experience, they're not as good as what we ended up with here without some really nuanced prompting. And again, you don't want to upload your entire manuscript to Jasper. Copy AI is another simple and intuitive one that generates descriptions. Now, that's better for e-commerce sites than it is actually for books. Okay, it does okay. It's not terrible, but it's better for that type of thing. Okay, so let's summarize what we talked about today. Essentially, book blurbs are a powerful sales tool. They're going to be the thing that gets your reader to buy your book. They need to include keywords. They need to be compelling. The language needs to be strong. So it needs to be for SEO and for those readers that are going to buy your book. Okay. AI tools save time. They're faster, and they can give you a great place to start. This tool, PublishDrive, has given us a great place to start with these blurbs by combining a few of these blurbs. It's also given us a great place to start with some keywords, some categories, things like that. So it's actually given us some pretty cool information that can give us a jump start in the metadata that we need to publish our books. Okay, there's a variety of tools available. I'm going to tell you that PublishDrive is one of the best ones that I've tried for creating book blurbs, and I've tried some that are actually turn out to be really terrible, that people have obviously created really quickly, and all they're doing is pulling from ChatGPT or somewhere else, and the prompting and the way that it works with your manuscript and stuff like that is not nearly as good. Also, PublishDrive is a trusted company, so I would upload my manuscript and understand the API and the things that they're using and not worry about whether my data is going somewhere that it shouldn't. Okay, so that's another thing, is the reputation of the company that you're dealing with. There's all kinds of tools out there, though. If you want to use ChatGPT, if you want to use Jasper, if you want to use one of those all work, but all of them require you as a human to edit the blurb later, to understand your prompting, to edit and polish the blurb later, and all of those things. AI is not going to turn out a perfect blurb for you on one shot. Okay, so I'm going to encourage you to go out, try AI. on some of your own books, give PublishDrive a shot. Again, you can create a free account. You got 60 credits to play with. Just see what it comes up with for a blurb for you, that type of thing. And then explore the distribution options with PublishDrive. They got a great model. Again, we'll talk about that in another video later where we talk about subscription versus royalty-based pricing. Basically, one shot I'm paying for it, or I'm giving you a amount of my royalties every single month. And we're going to talk about how many books you actually need to sell to make that type of model work. Okay. And then just when you have your book blurbs, spend some time to polish these and make them the best that they can be. This book blurb is not done yet. This is something that I will polish and maneuver around before I actually publish anything using this blurb. So keep that in mind, that this blurb is a starting point. You need to polish it. You need to make it the best that it can be to maximize your book sales. And with that, everyone, that's using AI to create book blurbs. Kind of focus on a particular tool, but kind of give you some general direction for things like that as well. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. If you haven't already, hit that notification bell and hit that subscribe button so you're sure that you never miss another video. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time.